with orthotics. We're dealing with all these issues and all that stuff too along the way every day. I mean, that's a big piece of what, because we're a comfort store. We're not a fashion store.
So you're like a SAS type of thing?
We not so much. We don't do SAS, but we do, Birkenstocks, Mephistos, Fin Comforts, a lot of that sort of
Like
stuff.
Allegria, yeah, stuff like that.
New Balance, Brooks, Merrill, Keen,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Bloodstone.
There's one guy locally here. There's not many of you guys left that do that, and it's Evans on the Common. So in my shoe buying guide, they get most of the referrals because they can do everything. Then there's a couple of local, like the Marathon and the local guy Sneakerama. They do good, but yeah, we can talk about anything. Now this is going to be for podiatrists mostly. There's about 400 on my list.
Cool.
And then you also have like this other entrepreneurial thing about you, which is more like you're simplifying business, right?
Yeah. So I work with all sorts of business owners, and I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the National Shoe Retailers Association, but I work with them as well, and do some work, and I'm going to be writing in their journal, and but I coach some footwear retailers and things like that. But simplifying entrepreneurship is, I'm an entrepreneurial coach. I work with business owners.
Like an EOS coach, or like
no, it's my own stuff.
Your own coaching thing. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's like a blend of, I'm a certified Business Made Simple coach with Donald Miller.
Don Miller, that's a Story Brand guy.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So I am certified with them. So it's like a blend of strategic coach stuff, Don stuff, EOS stuff. I mean, I got Traction right back here. It's one of my favorite books.
I saw that.
So it's like a blend of all sorts of different stuff, depending on what the client needs and what they're going through.
I think you're like a therapist. Everyone needs you. That's what I think. Well, I think everyone should have a therapist. I need a therapist, just someone to talk to for about an hour a week.
That's what I do, Donald. I mean, we literally sit down and have these chats and think about strategy and think about how we align their business so that it's giving them back the life that they want to live. And most business owners are mired down in the frustration and sort of all of that, working in their business and not actually enjoying what the business can give back to them as putting it in coach terms, in their freedoms, right?
Yeah. Cool. I am going to do a little intro here. Cool. And then we'll.
Right on.
I see your transcription thing arrived. So we're all set here.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that was turned on. It goes on automatically.
Automatically. Yep. I just want to make sure I have the right view. Sometimes I mess up the view format when I do this. Okay. Hello and welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. My name is Don Pelto and I have Pete Moore here. Welcome, Pete.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Don. It's been just absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's I'm so excited because we do talk to a lot of different docs and professionals, and you are my first person that actually has 2 shoe stores, and you also do business coaching. So tell me a little bit about your background. It started with the shoe store thing, and it moved in. You must have been passionate about marketing or business. So tell me a little bit of your backstory.
Oh, backstory goes way back before shoes. And, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. We've had bathroom renovation companies, cleaning franchises. I help people buy and sell businesses as a business broker. I bought my first shoe store 12 years ago. So just last week, celebrated our 12th anniversary. We started another one and we bought a third one and we closed one. So we're back down to 2 again. And I've had lots of different, I'm what I term as a multipreneur. I've pretty much always had more than one business on the go. And, I've set my businesses up in a way that I can do other things. And that's pretty much what I coach to with simplifying entrepreneurship, where I'm helping entrepreneurs sort of, get out of their businesses and work more on their business instead of in it so that they can enjoy some of the freedoms that owning your own business provides.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of talk through a little bit about that in terms of why is it important that let's talk podiatrists.
Yeah, for sure.
That we should work on their business versus in their business. And I know everyone's going to say, I'm hustling it, doc. You know, I don't have time to take a half day or an hour or anything because my time is so valuable. I need to see patients if they're a 1 doc or 2 doc practice. So let's address that initial objection and some of those thoughts.
Well, I think the word you said there is an important word: practice. And, you know, in your business, you guys are practitioners and your time, it truly is, you know, on the clock. And from that perspective, you can't expect not to have clock time, or what I would call floor time. You know, we talked a little bit about strategic coach earlier, and you know, Dan Sullivan has what I call free focus and flex, but he uses the term buffer, free focus and flex time. But there's also floor time. And for those of us who are in practice, or retailers, or even wholesalers, you need to have a certain amount of floor time as the leader of the business as well, so that you know you're in tune with what's going on and all that sort of thing. But if all you're doing is floor time, that's a problem. That's a problem. And, you know, in order for you to take that step back and work on your business so that you can enjoy some of the freedoms, and it really boils down to what you consider your freedoms to be. And that's usually where I start with most of my clients, Dawn, is understanding what it is you want the business that you own to deliver back to you for your lifestyle. We're in business because we wanted a better lifestyle than working for someone else, whether that's a practice or whether that's a retail store like our shoe stores, or you know, the service businesses, whatever, it doesn't matter. But we had this idea at the time of starting our own business that we were going to have a better life. And if it's not giving you that, then it's time to set back and look at some of those things and set up the systems and processes. And I've created this sort of 5P framework that sort of takes you through that in order to develop that. And, you know, ultimately, it's what you want out of your business. And a lot of people who have been at it for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, look back and are like, oh my God, it's like 10 years later and I'm still doing what I always did. I'm still working 60 hours a week. I don't feel any more freedom. Maybe I have a bit more money, but there's more to life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, and so did you go through that? Most of us that turn into entrepreneur, we like suffer in the beginning, and then we figure it out, and then we don't want to make that mistake, and we want to help others not make that mistake. Tell me, is that what happened to you in one of these other businesses? You worked too much and you just got burnt out?
Yeah, I think it happens to pretty much every entrepreneur down the road, and in particular that first 1 to 3 year period. You know, that first 1 to 3 year period, it's like head down, cash is tight. You know, we just got to get through getting the business up and going, and that's very common and normal. You know, but after that, there's more to it, right? It's like, okay, I've put in my time. Now I need to actually look at what I want out of this thing. And so, yeah, I missed, you know, going through with, we have 3 boys, going through that. I mean, I remember driving my kids all the way from, you know, we lived in Ottawa at the time in Canada, all the way down to Florida, you know, 22-hour drive down to Florida, dropping them off and hopping on a plane and heading back home so that I could run my business while my family was enjoying their trip. And because I lost a manager at that time, like the week before I was going away on my trip, so I had to go back and manage my business because I had nobody else to do it. And then hopping on a plane, flying back down like the day before, and having 1 day in Florida and driving my family back because we had elected with 5 people to drive it that year. And, you know, so was that frustrating? You're darn right. And has there been other frustrating times along the way? For sure. And there will continue to be. But I think the big thing is that you don't want those to be everyday occurrences. And that's the problem, right, Don? Where if you feel like you're putting out fires every day, then there's work to be done.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit so the current business that you have are these 2 shoe. Are there other businesses that you currently have, or just those 2 shoe stores?
The 2 shoe stores, and I spend most of my time coaching other entrepreneurs with simplifying entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about 2 shoe stores, because you could just as easily say I have 2 podiatry offices.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that run as I know in coach we talk about a self-managing company.
Yeah.
So how does that run as a self-managing company without Pete?
Okay, well, I'll give you a prime example. This year, I in my layout of my year, I wanted to take a month off. Well, I just got back. I was gone for an entire month. I didn't walk through the doors of my stores for an entire month. And how did I do that? Well, I had the right These are the 5 Ps that we're talking about. I had the right promise for my business, the right product or service, whatever you're doing. In your case, it's service. In my case, it's product. The right process, the right people, so that I could enjoy the right profit. And when you have the right profit, you can then enjoy some freedoms, and those freedoms are uniquely yours, whatever they are. Like one of the freedoms for me was I wanted to take a month off. For somebody else, they might want to, go away on a vacation. They might want to buy a triplex so that they can diversify. They might want, it doesn't really matter what those freedoms are, whether it's health, wealth, relationships, spend more time with your kids or your family or your best friends, that kind of stuff. But until you get to the point where you can actually be off the floor and doing some of that stuff and having your business run on tracks, then it's not going to happen.
Now, Pete, let me, I'm picking your brain because this is the fun part about doing this.
Yeah.
You purchased these, let's talk about shoes, right? Your shoe stores 5 years ago, you said?
12.
12 years ago. Okay. 12 years ago, you walked in. If we could turn the time back 12 years ago, Pete walked into there. Yep. There probably was not a promise, product, process, people, or profit. No. So
there was profit. There was profit.
Yeah. How long did it take you, and how did you grind that stuff out? Was it something you did in 6 months? Was it an hour a day? Did you have a Word doc that you filled in? What did you do? Walk me through it.
We're still doing it, Don. It's a never ending process, right?
Constant, never ending improvement, right?
We're still doing it.
But you got to tell me what, what I'm thinking about. I know E-Myth, they have this whole sophisticated complex, and what you're talking is simple. Like, is there a simple thing? Because this sounds overwhelming to me listening to it. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to find time, and I'm not going to want to do the stuff you're talking about. So if I'm thinking that, the other listeners are thinking, so make it easy.
For sure. So what did I do with the shoe stores? Well, I came in literally having a cash register, not even a point of sale system, and a 32-column accounting book. They were still handwriting at the end of the day, all of their stuff in an accounting book that's what I inherited. Right. Wow. And somebody who, the owners were sharp. Okay. It was a husband and wife team. They were sharp, but they were there every minute of the day. They didn't trust their team. They didn't let anybody have any decision-making power. They ran it. If one of them wasn't there, the other one was there. Pretty much 6 days out of 7 days a week. They took 1 day off a week together. By the way, after they retired 12 years ago, they're now divorced because they don't even know how to live outside of their business. Right. And so like, these are the things when we look at the freedoms. Do you want the freedom of a relationship? Do you want the freedom to do those kind of things? So what did we do? Well, first thing we did was put in a point of sale system, started taking accurate inventory, started getting the information that we needed in order to make the right decisions, so that we bought better, so that we sold better, so that we understood our margins, not just we sold, $100,000 worth of athletic shoes last year, and who knows if we made any money on it or not. Gross dollars don't mean anything. It's about the profit you take home, which is that 5th P, right? Because if you do $2 million worth of business and your costs are 2.1 million, there's no profit and there's no freedom.
Wow. Yeah. And how about I remember with E-Myth, when I studied them, did you write out individual job descriptions for every single person, how they clean the bathroom, what the order, the McDonald's franchise prototype stuff? Yes. Oh, how painful.
Yeah. It is. It is.
Did you do it, or do you have someone do it for you? Do you have a who?
Both. So, I mean, we started off and understanding, so I've got a whole thing that I help people develop their promise, and understanding what the promise is really understanding what your client's problem is, your unique selection of what it is you do in order to transition them from the problem to the life better after, right? Because everybody buys a better
transformation.
Life, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, everything we do is about transformation. And that's the only time people will buy. So in your case, they've got sore feet. They want to feel better. So what's that transformation, and how do you differentiate between everyone else who's doing what you do? So, understanding that promise, and for us, having the captions around that. So I've narrowed it down to, and this will be familiar to everybody listening because you guys understand it, but it's ooh, ah, and aha. That's it. So when I've developed a thing called the Heart of Shootopia, and it's all these modules around what we do in order to create those 3 sounds: ooh, ah, and aha. So ooh is ooh, I look pretty good when you're looking in the mirror, right? You're like, ooh, I look pretty good. And then when you're standing there in those shoes and you go, close your eyes and you go, ah, those feel awesome. And then you have the aha moment, which is like, oh my God, I finally found a pair of shoes that actually looks good and feels awesome. How good is that? So that's the other sort of tagline around what we do. It's we want our customers when they leave the store to look great and feel fantastic, so that when they walk out the door, they look back at this Utopia sign and they're like, oh my God, that's my favorite shoe store.
That's great.
Right. So that's the kind of stuff when you understand your promise that you're delivering, then we have alignment. So now I get into the product or service, and the product is everything needs to align to that. If it doesn't align to that, we're disconnecting. We're disconnecting with our clients. We're disconnecting with our marketing. We're disconnecting with our message. We're disconnecting with our team. So all of that other stuff. Then we align the process that you were talking about. Well, all of our processes have to deliver that same promise, right? That's why it all starts with the promise, right? And you need to really be conscious of that with every business decision that you make. And as the leader of the business, be communicating it every day, day in and day out, with all the messaging internally and externally to your suppliers, to everybody. And those are all the people, right? So the people you have, I lay it out in three. Who's your ideal client? Which I'm sure you've talked about and all that kind of stuff, figuring out your ideal client. And then, the second one is, who are your ideal teammates? Who's the best ever you've ever had and the worst ever you've ever had? You can do that with your clients too. You can also do it with your other outsourced suppliers. Anybody who's helping you, your accountant, your lawyer, your marketing team, any of those other people. Who's the best ever and who's the worst ever? And then scorecard them, right? Scorecard them. And so that when you go to find your next person, whether it's a client, whether it's a teammate, whether it's an outsourced partner, you're really putting them up against your matrix of your best ever. And it's like, it's pretty simple. You just don't add up. So you can't join the team because it's not going to deliver the promise. Or you're not my ideal client because you don't add up to this. So I'm not going to waste my time. And it's okay to repel. It's okay to repel. We want to attract, but it's okay to repel too. And by honing in on that promise and honing in on those different things in complete alignment, you're going to repel a bunch of people, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna pull back and I'm gonna explain people that haven't heard of a scorecard. Basically, you take the best, let's say, plantar fasciitis patient you can have, and the worst plantar fasciitis patient. They have certain characteristics, and so you want to rank for more of the higher ones, and you give them a number rank. It's kind of it's a wonderful tool. I learned originally in Strategic Coach. I don't know if there's a better way to people can learn about that, but you probably have something in your system about the scorecard.
It doesn't have to be as in depth, and I'm familiar with Strategic Coach one as well. It doesn't have to be even as in depth with that. Like if you just take literally a sheet of paper to make it simple, literally a sheet of paper, vertical line down the middle, who's your worst ever client, who's your best ever client, start downloading that. It's going to give you the framework that you need to start thinking about this stuff. So
who do you want more of? You want more of the good ones and less of the
right. So take your language around that, right, Don? Take your language around that. And that's what you mark to. That's your next social post. That's your next email. That's your next. It's like the other day, this person walked in and this is why we're a perfect fit, because I was able to help them through the promise, the transition, by using our services in alignment with my ideal client so that they feel so much better. And by the way, I made some profit.
Yeah.
And profit's a good thing.
Yeah, that's the key. I think a lot of times we're not specific enough in who we speak to.
Yeah.
In terms of that. That's awesome. That's awesome. So we kind of went through your tips. I guess what else do you want to talk about? You have some resources you can share where the links are. What would be the benefit of us podiatrists to go look at those? And tell me a little bit about what are some of the resources you have.
I have a ton. One, I have a podcast
simple,
like you.
Simple.
Yeah. It's called Simplifying Entrepreneurship, which is the name of my business. I try to keep everything simple, right? And so we that's for entrepreneurs, and podiatrists are entrepreneurs, right? So it's not necessarily for anybody in particular, but it's all about the kind of stuff we're talking about today and getting you through these different things. And the other thing is that on my website at Simplifying Entrepreneurship, I have this great tool, and it's called the business assessment. You just click at the top, and there's several buttons to click. The call to action really is to take the assessment. The assessment takes about 10 minutes to do. It's about 50 multiple choice questions. And when you fill it out, it spits you back a report that's literally between 50 and 60 pages of information on what you're doing with your practice super well and the things you need improvement on. And so what that does again is it gives you a benchmark and a tool that you can take. And I love tools. Everything, it's all about thinking tools and all about this sort of stuff. So everything that I do is all around tools. But it's like get the stuff out of your head onto an assessment or onto a paper so that I can actually take action on some of the stuff that I need to work on and also be patted on the back on the stuff that I'm doing well.
That's awesome. Pete, let's talk about, you seem like a multiplier. I'm a simplifier, you're a multiplier, but we have similar things in common in terms of taking action. Do you have certain habits of ways of organizing time or getting through checklists or a number of things you do a day or things like that that have really worked well for you? Because I think I'm just saying my struggle is my list is, I come back from strategic coach, I got a list of 80 things. I have to download them to my pocket coach, and then only a part of them will get done because my buffer time is between patients. There's not a ton of time to do it. Do you have any tips for busy people to get stuff done? You're a busy person. How do you get stuff done efficiently?
Well, for me, I set up all kinds of automations, Don.
Okay.
I literally have a ton of automations, from Gmail automations. I have Zapier stuff set up. I have, all sorts of things where, like, how many of you listening get some people sending you invoices? Do you actually deal with the invoices? Well, I don't. I have a bookkeeper that deals with the invoices. So if somebody is sending me an invoice for something that we've bought, they're sending it to the wrong person. And no matter how many times I've told them not to send it to me, it should go to the bookkeeper, they still send it to me because I'm the owner, or they think I need to be CC'd. Well, all of that stuff I don't ever see. It's automatically sent off to my bookkeeper. It's in my inbox. I can search it if I want to, but it's automatically out of my inbox, out of my mind. So as much of that stuff that I can get in the right filters, the right flows, all of the things that I can automatically take care of, I take care of so that I can then have some more of that time you're just talking about. Because if you're frustrated by all of those kind of things where people are taking your time on stuff that's not relevant to what you're doing, then that's a problem.
That's great.
And that's one of the first processes you got to set up in order to alleviate yourself of those frustrations so that you can get that time back. Time, like Dean Jackson, who's another coach guy, right? One of his sayings that I really like is, there's only 24 hours in a day. You can't buy more and you can't use less. So how are you using your time? And how are you using automations and tools and things like that to get your thinking out, to get all of these things done in a way that is going to give you back your time so that you can enjoy a better life?
That's great. My favorite is follow up then, or followup.cc.
Yeah.
So I don't have any emails in my inbox. Everything goes to an optional folder like Tim Ferriss talks about. But I haven't got deep into the Zapier. I was doing If Then That. Mm-hmm. That was the one I was using more, but those are great.
IFTT is one that I've used in the past too. Zapier is just really a more structured version of that.
Yeah. And so if people want to go deeper with, like, let's say someone downloads your thing, how do you help people now? You do business coaching.
I do.
Why Pete? Why not someone else? Who are the people that you tend to resonate with, that you just love working with?
Well, I'm in the footwear industry and I work with a bunch of retailers, for sure, both in footwear and outside of footwear. Actually, I work with all sorts of different retailers, but I've worked with a lot of practices too, Don, lawyers and accountants and insurance agents. I haven't worked with all sorts of different kinds, but the idea here is that, we work, I'm a Business Made Simple certified coach, so we can get into the marketing side of things and all that with that sort of toolbox. But really, it's understanding what your particular frustrations are as the owner of the business, and how are we going to lay out the strategy to actually change that, to take that transformation through. And it's always got to do, and that's why it's simplifying entrepreneurship, not simplifying retail or simplifying any of these other ones, because really they're common sort of problems with almost any entrepreneur. They're feeling frustrated. They're feeling overwhelmed. I use this line around this idea of the fact that you own your business and it shouldn't own you. And if you feel as though your business is owning you, then we should have a chat.
Wow. Pete, I think a lot of professionals, doctors, people that own their businesses, everything you say resonates, but then life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happens to so many people. So I guess my word to those that are listening to this podcast, it doesn't need to be Pete. You just have to have a who. You have to have someone, like I said before we started, I think everyone needs a shrink. And you might call him a coach. You might call him just someone to bounce. And it might only be an hour a week just to bounce some ideas. I have a person that I work with once a week, just in, that I meet every Friday. Yeah. And I do a couple of what we call impact filters with her. I just clarify my thinking, because if it's in our heads, guys, we get frustrated and we never make any progress because we don't have any thinking tools of how to get through those things. So, look at Pete's information. If it's a good fit, reach out maybe for a chat. And, we can do it again. We talk more about shoe gear in the future, but appreciate your time. Any last moment ideas and how can they learn more about you? What's the website?
Oh, Don, we can talk forever. There's no shortage of you're a Colby person too, I'm sure. And I'm like a 3392. So there's never any short.
We have the same, pretty much the same.
Yeah. So, best way to reach me is on LinkedIn, Pete Moore, MOHR. I'm on Instagram at Pete Moore _coach. And you can find me on the website at Simplifying Entrepreneurship, and all of the stuff that we talked about today is there.
Great. Thank you so much, Pete.
My pleasure.